And start. Fuck. Updated stream. Alright. Let's get that lower in the background. Alright, this is New Vegas perks tier list. Now, something kind of quirky about this tier list is that I made it. Look at that. Look at that plug. Yeah, so all the tier lists on about New Vegas perks. Look at that. Follow me on Twitter. I'm on here. That's right, it's me. Don't say I never gave back to the community. All the tier lists about the perks like are really hard to like read, and they're not organized at all, and they're missing stuff. So I went through and made my own. I've still got the perks here because I don't know some of them by the image, and I don't know what some of them do. I don't know what this one does, for instance, you know. But in general, we'll be able to go through. And rank all of them. So we're gonna need to come up with tiers like now. And I think that this is always good. Like, just always great. And we're gonna capitalize great. So what do I mean? The top tier will be like perks that no matter what type of playstyle you're doing, no matter what type of build, you can always pick it. And there are perks like that. Then we'll pick like build goats. So like, obviously if you're doing a crit build, it would be in here, but not all builds in the game are crit builds. So things like that. Then we'll pick always good, never great. I think that's a good way to put it. Just perks that are always good to pick. But they're never ever like go-tos. They're like if you have like a build where you have perks left over, basically. And then we'll have the opportunity cost tier. So yeah, basically just because of the fact that you have to pick this over another perk, it's bad. But it's not bad, obviously, because all perks are technically good in a vacuum. Then there's like the bad tier. You know what? I think we'll leave it like this. And then shine on you crazy armor. And we'll even change the color too, just to make it all special. Alright. What are we talking about though? Because like some people are gonna wonder like where I'm coming from with this. I've ran New Vegas casually on console since like 2012, 2013. Played it about 4 or 5 times a year since then. So I've played this like, I've probably invested over like 2,000 hours of New Vegas my whole life. I like this game a lot for a variety of reasons. My favorite has to be building a character like on paper and then going through and systematically leveling up, distributing your perks right, meeting all the checks in the game at the points where you need them. That to me is the most fun. This list is influenced entirely by vanilla. The only mod I've ever installed in my life is Jay Sawyer, and when I saw how different it was, I decided to hold off until I wanted to play it for a challenge. Like, this is the first time in my casual time right now that I've ever played on PC. And, like, yeah, it's phenomenal. I could make it like a video just, like, you know, hyping up New Vegas. Everyone has one of those videos, and I need to, too. But for the sake of playthrough and, like, playing challenge, I'm not talking about, like, permadeath or randomizer. I'm talking about assuming you start in Good Springs, but I'm also gonna assume you can kind of do some sequence breaking. Like, I'm gonna assume that you're trying to build a good character in whatever class you're doing. So I'm not assuming that you're speedrunning and you're going straight to Vegas and doing the bare minimum of the game. because obviously pacifism is just that build, but there's some stuff that you can do, but I'm mostly considering you're going through, you're clearing most of the quest, you're exploring most good locations, maybe not 100%ing, and I'm not assuming DLC. So this is more so assuming the kind of playthrough I do, where you do everything and try to hit like level 30 something before the dam, but that you don't really go through the DLC. Because if you go through the DLC, it just kind of invalidates like your character build, because you can just kind of do anything. There's so many perks and so much experience on the DLCs that if you do them like at all, other than like maybe just the main story of Honest Hearts, that it just breaks the game. So if you're going to do the DLC at all, I'll assume that you do it at the end. So your build is pretty much already built and you're just running through for the sake of like check marking, right? That's a little bit of preamble, but let's get into the perks. Black Widow. And I think Black Widow is actually like always good but never great. 10% damage is a significant actual amp, and the dialogue is really good. However, both of these have shortcomings, so the dialogue is kind of less relevant when you consider how powerful speech is in the context of New Vegas. Speech is just like ridiculously OP, and all you have to do is just power level speech, and you don't need any dialogue perk ever. But there's specific instances this is useful in. It's useful for early Benny, obviously, but we're not really considering that. The damage is nice, especially if you plan on fighting Caesar's Legion, because every Legionnaire is male, so obviously that's going to help with them. But then you have to consider, like, well, are human enemies really, like, the hardest part of the game? And at that, Legionnaires aren't really that difficult, aside from, like, the hit squads. So maybe if you're doing some type of weird run where you're pissing off the Legion as early as possible in Nipton, this perk might be more useful just for the Legion hit squads early on. But other than that, it's just net positive and not really warping how you build the game. This is more so a perk that I think you would actually end up taking if you just didn't have another level 2 perk for whatever reason, but you should. Because there's a really good level 2 perk you should almost always build around. But yeah. The dialogue is useful, and it's good that it's level 2 perk, because the earlier you have it, the more you use it. Another thing to consider, though, is that anytime we're using like a dialogue perk like this over like speech, you actually miss out on experience. So there's more than enough experience even doing this, but that is something to consider. Churches La Femme is like the exact same but worse, because there's not as many girls in the game. I mean, yeah, that's literally just it. The dialogue options are also spread more thin, because, you know, there's more straight people than gay people, but Confirmed Bachelor is just literally just kind of that. I think that the Benny utility puts this higher, and I think that there's more straight men than gay men in the game. I could be mistaken, but yeah. But this is still more useful because of the combat application. And then, I know it's down here, yeah. Lady Killer. I think there's more straight women than gay women in this game that you can use the dialogue for, so. They're all literally the exact same, but they're just inverse for genders, and they're more for role-playing, so that you have the dialogue options. I low-key kind of hate that aspect of these perks. It's kind of weird that, like, you have to spend a perk point to choose your character's, like, orientation. That's very bizarre to me. Kind of like Wild Wasteland being a trait is really lame. But, I mean, the benefits are nice, the damage benefit and the dialogue benefit. I just wish that it was a character choice, not a whatever. Friend of the Night is bad. So, yeah, Friend of the Night is just horrible. It makes it so that at nighttime you have the effect of cat eye. But I want you to really stop and consider that you can literally just simply turn up the brightness on your monitor, on your TV. There's literally an option in the game called brightness. Why would you ever pick this? The only option I can legitimately see besides the idea of like role playing, or like maybe you're doing like a Khajiit mod or something, is if you just like how the world looks with that color palette, maybe, but that's really out there. It has no practical application for the game itself. Actually, it's starting to get hot in here. Let me go turn the fan on. I like that fucking worn out seat sound. Heave ho. Throne speed and range. So this is actually kind of a little weird. Because I feel like in some cases, I guess maybe just for dynamite, you actually might prefer the throw to take longer because of how you time the dynamite. But like for anything more than dynamite, this is like just a net positive. The problem is late game, I don't know that you're going to go around chucking things. And in general, thrown weapon builds are just not really objectively like stronger. But obviously if you do a thrown weapons build, this is literally like probably the only perk you can legitimately take for it, so it kind of has to be this high. But it feels weird to put it that high. It's not. It's going to be like low in this tier. Hunter. So I think Hunter, what is it? It's 75% more critical damage against animals and mutated animals. That's actually a powerful effect. The problem is, when you think about what this affects, right? The strongest thing this affects, unless I'm mistaken, is a gecko. Like, I'll check it, but if it's nothing stronger than geckos, it's worthless. Yeah, geckos and lakeworks. Yeah, Night Stalkers are abominations. So are Deathclaws. So that's the problem, is that if those two were animals instead of abominations, this would actually be like really good, but it's just kind of okay. You don't run into like, you run into geckos, but like you should be able to tango with them by the time you're down to like the Mojave Outpost with the NCR and Nipton. Like you can probably just start tangoing with geckos by that point, like if you have the right weapons or if you have like the pre-order DLC. And it's just, I really don't know that you actually like need this buff just for the early on. It is good early, but you also have to consider that just late game, you're just not going to notice it. You would have been one-shotting shit anyways. But I'm not going to say it's bad, because that's actually a good benefit. If you're doing like a weird challenge run where you're only allowed to use weak weapons, you would absolutely pick this, right? But yeah, just use strong weapons and you don't need it. Shine on you crazy armor. Yeah, it doesn't work. So it's literally just nothing. At least this is like, whatever. This actively does nothing. It's picking a perk point that just doesn't do anything. I guess we could theory craft and talk about how good it sounds like it would be. I know there's probably a mod out there that fixes it or whatever. What's the effect again? It's like plus 5 DT. You gotta go all the way to dead money. Yeah, they literally warn you on the perk thing. It is supposed to grant 5 DT against energy weapons while wearing metal armor, with a further plus 2 while wearing reflective armor. So if you wore like power armor, you would just get plus 7 DT against energy weapons. Why did I do that? I'm gonna have to open that up again. Um, and that's dookie. Even if it was like the effect worked properly, it would be like here, if not here. It would have potential early on in case you're doing like a challenge where you have to fight the Brotherhood early or something, or if you routed your game like that. But yeah, there's just no situation at all where it's worth picking a perk that doesn't do anything. Even if it did work, it just wouldn't be that good. Because once you have power armor, you have such high DT anyways that like 7 doesn't matter. So if you're wearing like metal armors, you're gonna go to power armor, and if you do that, then this perk is worthless. So yeah. And intense training. I think it's like the pinnacle of always good, never great. Because you're given enough special stats that as long as you're trying not to max out everything at like level 30, you always have enough points to throw around for what you need. Charisma's always a dump stat. If Charisma isn't a dump stat, you're doing a weird gimmick build, so you can dump a different stat. So yeah, just throwing points into that, it can work. Like if you want to distribute all your points but you won't have enough for implants, you can raise your endurance and get the implant. So that's like an option. But yeah, really this is a perk that you pick because you run out of other perks to choose like late game. And it's just like, well, might as well. There's really no build I've ever done that's relied on intense training, but you can't say that getting a special perk is, or a special point is worthless at all. Because it is powerful, but yeah, you've got Charisma, which is just almost always a dump stat. And then from there, that's just too many points where you don't need this. So yeah. Because if you throw around your special stats right, you don't really need more special stats. You actually want to take perks that complement what those stats are doing, instead of just increasing the raw number, right? It doesn't really matter at that point. Like, Perception is worthless outside of perks because of Eddie. Charisma is worthless in general. Luck outside of crit builds is literally just a dump stat. There's just so many perks, or there's so many of the special stats that you can literally just dump depending on how you're building, that you just don't need this. Junk rounds is horrible. Let me look at it and make sure, because this is the one that needs like a tin can. Yeah, scrap metal and tin cans. These each weigh 1 pound, and it creates incredibly low amounts of ammo. So it's specifically useful in dead money, and that's what it's created for. That's why you can get this so early, in case you go there first. But man, that's just not worth it remotely. Even within dead money, as much as I don't like that DLC, you'll eventually just get stacked. Like, if you know like where to look inside buildings for stuff to give the vending machines, you don't need like to craft all your stuff in that game anyways, in that DLC. So I think it's just not worth it. That actually is just more bad. Yeah. And Shining Armor is... You know what? No. Because you might build with heavy armor. Yeah, because if you... Well, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to say that this is going to be like the top of build goats, because the only build where this isn't good is if you fight with heavy armor. That's literally it. But yeah, just flat crit increase because you're wearing light armor is really phenomenal. Light armor perks stack this and travel light make light armor really appealing. And then on top of that, the DLCs have really good perks for this. The Courier's Duster, Joshua Graham's armor, and in the base game, if you get the subdermal implant, it becomes worth it to stack this on a crit build. You just become ridiculous OP with that. Not to mention that I personally think that the light armors are fine. Like the leather and reinforced leather look pretty cool. The vault suit, if you stay in your Vault 21 jumpsuit you get from Doc Mitchell for like the role playing, it looks pretty cool to walk around in that. So, absolutely amazing. Light armor crit builds are just nuts. I also think that light armor crit builds balance the game enough to where it's not, to where you're kind of like vulnerable enough to be getting killed pretty quickly, like in every fight, but that you're dealing insane amounts of damage with crits. I never had access to mods, so I never played on very hard with any balance patches, like for like difficulty rebalancing, but light armor with crit builds is kind of like that middle ground where you're pretty squishy, but you're dealing a lot of damage. And it kind of, I had to do that on console, and I like that a lot. But yeah, this works with like literally every crit though. So, this is Old World Gourmet. Yeah. Addiction resistance, health bonus from snack foods, and some alcohol give you healing. It's not bad. That's not a bad effect, but it's just so many other perks are going to be good. And here's the thing, this list is pretty top heavy, because when you think about it, the top tier is good, the second to top tier is good, the third tier is good, and the fourth one is like, it's good, but... And that's because New Vegas is very easy. And fundamentally, you can kind of do whatever you want and brute force it, especially with the DLC, like 25 perks is way too much. But yeah, just so many perks are just good that I don't think this is worth it. A rapid reload. If your build requires it, and I'm gonna say that more builds will than Heave-Ho, rapid reload is just like insanely goated. If you want to do a lucky build with crits, then you're gonna have to reload that revolver a lot. If you want to do like dinner bell shotgun build, then you're gonna have to reload that a lot. Even if you do explosives, like having to reload your missile launcher can be annoying. The minigun takes forever. The hollow rifle takes forever if you do the DLCs at level 1, and having rapid reload is really good. At 10 agility, you kind of move fast enough already, but for single reloads, it definitely, you feel it. You feel it for single reload weapons. And it'll actually save your ass in battle too. So I'm assuming that this would actually be really good in permadeath. Because reloading that much faster can save you, and you can get a shot off where you would have died. So I think it's pretty good. Retention. So I think that the idea of retention was to make it, was that this was mostly for combat, so that you could put this on and then clear out a dungeon with your skill increases. The problem is that skill increases in combat skills are negligible. You don't feel them, really. And then from there, time stops whenever you're in the middle of a conversation or when you're doing certain actions. So all the skill check things like dialogue or terminals or lockpicks or trap prompts that you're going to feel when you do this so that you can get over something isn't really, you're not going to feel it. Like, it's just not, it's worthless. You have way too much time already to get whatever you want done with, so this is just kind of a wasted perk. Not to mention that it only impacts skill magazines, so once you have your skills at a level where you don't really need boosts, you won't feel this ever. Like, at level 20 or 30, retention is not, you're never going to use retention. So it's one of those perks that's not only not that great, but eventually you just won't even feel it. Like, at level 50, this perk is a dud. Like, this perk at level 50 is like Shining Armor. Which is why it's kind of like down here. But I think that early on it does have some use. Because your skills will be lower, so you'll have to rely on magazines more. I think that's better than these two. Swift Learner. Might get in trouble for this. I think Swift Learner... I don't know. I'm trying to consider this for the possibility that you're playing through with guns, energy weapons, melee unarmed, explosives, stealth, or pacifism, and that you're actually trying to play through like most of the game using one of those builds. And in pacifism, you actually really, really want a swift learner. The problem is, you know what? We put Heave-Ho that high. I actually think that this is going to go like probably about here. I think pacifism is the least viable of any build for an actual like full playthrough and not a speed run. But yeah, for pacifism, I think swift learner is like a goat. Just because like you really want all that experience as fast as possible, and you don't really. Your experience gain is like rare enough that you'll actually feel this. And since you need skill checks to get experience and like level up in pacifism, you would really like need this perk early on. Unless you want a sequence break and just go straight to Vegas, but you know, whatever. Cannibalism. Cannibalism is like just whatever. It's literally there for roleplay. Let me look at the effects, because I don't pick cannibal ever. It just regains hit points. What it? 25 hit points, radiation, -1 carbo. Hardcore mode, 25 starvation. Yeah, -25 starvation is not that much. So it's like, it's good. Especially early on at level 4. But just realistically, you don't need this. Like, the moment that you get Ruby's casseroles, you won't need this anymore. If you do the DLC, MREs are like your best friend. Yeah, you don't need this. It's just for role-playing. But I think that for role-playing, it's very fun. It's obviously funny that you can... Not funny, but fun that you can make a cannibal. This is... Comprehension? Cannibal comprehension. Yeah, so... Entomol. Yeah, so that's educated. This is comprehension. Comprehension is, like, pretty much always good. Like, I really don't know a situation where you need to dump intelligence aside from, like, role-playing a very specific build. So having 4 intelligence is really doable. And then from there, you have to consider that there's 2 things you gain from this. So the short-term boost is immense. Being able to have plus 20 points from a skill magazine is, like, insane. It basically allows you to, like, power level for certain perks early on without sacrificing skill checks that matter. Which is just really valuable. Being able to, like, pick a lockpick from, like, what, +2 from Mentats, +1 from a hat, +20 from Locksmith's Reader. So you could pick an average lock from, like, what, 24 skill points? It's just nuts. You have, like, you can do really crazy shit like that and just keep amping your stats. I think the highest is that you can get to almost, like, +50 speech with comprehension. Because of things like apparel and alcohol and all that. Obviously, that's a lot of boost that you're stacking, but the fact that you get an additional 10 points from the skill magazine alone, it's really useful because it means that the way that I tend to build a character is when I know that I'm entering an area and that the difficulty of locks has, like, gone up from easy to average or whatever, I'll level up my science and lockpick to 40 because I know that I can use magazines to get them up there. But it means you can leave them at 30 and redistribute your points into other stuff for, like, earlier games, while still progressing at the same rate that you should within the game. Comprehension is busted. Almost, I would say probably almost necessary for pacifism. And then, that's all well and good, but I just said that retention is pretty bad because you won't feel it at 50. But comprehension changes it so that you also get additional skill points from skill books. So even late game, you'll actually feel the effects because there's like what, 3 to 5 books of each type. So that's anywhere from 3 to 5 points in every stat. Yeah, it's ludicrous how amazing comprehension is. Educated. It's always good, and I don't think it's great. So, in general, I'm assuming you have the DLC, right? I think we said that up front. And at level 50, Educated is a waste, because you don't have as much short-term benefit as Comprehension, even though you have more long-term. It's just, you don't need Educated to hit max in every stat, or to hit max in all the stats you care about. Once you're at level 50, it will literally just be a dud in your perk thing. But the short-term effect is really powerful. If you're trying to like get max stats fast, because you want to like do the game without doing the DLC, then this is really good. But other than that, you'll always hit level 50 and max out all your stats. If you build your build even like half decently, you can max out every stat that besides like the combat stats you don't use. Right? So that's that, but again, it's kind of weird because the effect it'll have on your character late game is really powerful. But I don't know. I guess it's not really a dud because it's more so like, what is it, 2 times like 48, so it's like more like 100 skill points that you just got for free, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'd put it like here. Entomologist. 50 damage every time you attack mutated insect. Okay, so this one also is just better, strictly better than Hunter, because the strongest animal that you'll fight is a lake lurk, and they're pretty rare anyways. But you'll fight Cazadors a lot in the mid to late game, and you're not relying on crits, which is also like more inherently, whether you're doing crits or not, this is flat damage. It's not as much as the bonus crit damage, but it's more flat damage. Not to mention you fight bugs earlier on. Like what do bugs, like let's check what all this affects, because if it's like rad scorpions too. Arachnids, not insects. Yeah, Cazador, rad scorpion, ants, and mantises. Fucking god damn it. I'm sick of that. There we go. I don't think you need the amp because bugs, aside from scorpions, are squishy. Even at level 1, you can like tango with Cazadors, like dealing damage. The problem is they'll kill you in 2 shots. But like you can probably kill a Cazador at least decently early on. They're not bulky. So this also just doesn't have like that kind of level. You also need like intelligence and survival, it said. Yeah. The survival isn't as big because you'll probably have that level of survival for Travel Light, but yeah, Travel Light and Comprehension, so you'll probably have the stats you need. I just think that late game you're gonna kill Cazadors pretty easily anyways. But if you like hate VATs and explosives, then you would probably pick this perk. But those are a lot of conditions I don't really feel like put it up that high. And then what is this? Rad Child? So you can regenerate more health when you have more rads. The problem is that radiation sickness detriments your stats. So even though you're regenerating health, you're actually passively having less health. So it's just bad. There's like a weird radiation set you can do where you stack all of the radiation perks and you become really strong when irradiated. But it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. So this is a run and gun, yeah. Obviously, if you're doing an automatic one-handed build, yeah, this is like goated. I think you would do a one-handed build about there. I did one on a 9mm in Sleepy Time, where I swapped back and forth between those Vances and the Sleepy Time. This can be useful, but in general, you'll still be preferring VATs. The thing is, just early on, it's good when you have less VATs to work with. So I think that it kind of balances itself out there. Plus, some people prefer running around without VATs anyways. So if you do, this is like mandatory. So either way, I think it'll just end up there. Travel Light is actually going to be goated for any build. It's actually like higher than Comprehension 2. Maybe not. Travel Light is good because you don't actually have to have armor on for it to work. So it means that you can carry around like your like power armor. And then whenever you want to just like run around like a little bit faster, you can just take the armor off and run. And then you're not only like not at a speed penalty, you're like actively faster. So you can use this no matter what your build is. And because it's like traveling, it's not meant to be combat. So just running around the overworld becomes more convenient because of this. I know that there should just be a sprint option, and that there's mods for that, but I haven't played with those yet, so this perk is still really valuable to me. Especially on console. 360. And yeah, just in general. Not to mention this synergizes really well with light armor crit builds on unarmed, because you'll be able to run in way faster and start decking them and get all your damage off before they have as much time to hurt you. So it's even good in that respect. Bloody Mess. Bloody Mess is right behind Light Touch, because Light Touch is useful even for pacifism, because you'll be able to take less crit damage from enemies, which is nice. But it isn't useful if you're using heavy armor, whereas this can still be useful. Bloody Mess is useful for everything but pacifism. So we'll put it like right here, because it's basically the same. Bloody Mess is just a good flat damage increase to everything. No gender requirement, no animal requirement, no insect requirement, no crit requirement. It's just flat damage. Really good. You'll feel it, especially early on. But the real fun is just the Bloody Mess itself. I really like just leaving like viscera everywhere. It's just really fun. I know that's really bad, but yeah, it's just super fun. This is Demolition Expert, which is like mandatory for any explosive build. And I think that you would have explosive builds like probably about here. Yeah, because there's more explosives than I think weapons that take forever to reload. Not to mention, you can also just like level up your explosives. The thing is though, is that it's not really necessary. Because like, no matter what, a Fat Man is pretty much one-shotting everything but a Deathclaw anyways. I've never played on very hard, so I'll assume that on very hard, some things can tank with a Fat Man. And if that's the case, then like, you know, you need it for like the lower end weapons so you don't kill yourself, but yeah, Demolition Expert is obviously just good. Nothing complex to say about it. Ferocious Loyalty. So Ferocious Loyalty is actually like insanely good. Yeah, especially on hardcore. Yeah. Combines well with high nerve. The problem is, you have to have high charisma. If it weren't for how valuable keeping your allies alive in hardcore mode is during difficult fights, this would actually be like up here. Like if this had no charisma requirement, it would actually be up here. But charisma is just so useless outside of this one perk that, yeah, honestly, I just don't think it's worth it. Something to note when talking about charisma is that me personally, I use the Veronica glitch for the companions. So I don't have that much of a trouble keeping them alive. But, like, if you're traveling with one companion and you're sticking to the rules, this would actually be invaluable. Charisma would not be a dump stat if you legitimately just played it with one companion on very hardcore, but I think outside of that, this is down here. Fortune Finder. Dude, Fortune Finder just sucks. Is the money you make enough to just buy the ammo instead of making it? Probably, yeah. So, Fortune Finder, you just don't need it, man. There's too much money. Like, I was doing a run in my personal time, and I made it to like right before Novak. Like, I'm heading towards like Searchlight, and I've already got every implant I can have for my character, and I have like 6 endurance. Like, I have the subdermal implant, and I've only made it to Searchlight. Like, you don't need money. You could probably keep your barter at like 20 and 1 charisma and like no money perks and still have too much money by the end of the game. There's too much money in this game. If I was gonna like install a mod, I would make it so that selling things is harder. But yeah. Gunslinger, really like goated for builds. There's more guns you might use late game than specifically one-handed auto-fire guns. So I think that it'll go slightly higher, but yeah. Almost every VATs perk will end up in build goats because VATs is OP. So this is hand loader. So hand loader is always good but never great. Probably like more than educated. The weapons, I'm assuming that on very hard, the ammo would become way more valuable. Also, if you play alone, but in general, you just don't need the extra kick. You're like strong enough at the end game to like start taking undead claws and stuff. That like you don't really need to be any further amped than just getting like armor piercing for whatever. And that's like probably about it. But yeah, it is worth it. Like the different weapon ammo types you can create are insanely powerful. But the cap of the game is just such that you don't really need it. So it's more like if you're doing a guns build and you have leftover perks, you could pick this and then get even stronger. But I will guess that for a very hard difficulty, this becomes way more valuable. Lead belly is worthless because the radiation you get can be healed by doctors, which costs money. So Mad Bomber, let me look it up because there's like 1 or 2 weapons in here that's actually like really strong. Yeah, the Fat Mine, the MFC Grenade. Bottle Cap Mines. Fat Mines are actually really powerful, and MFC Grenades are really good early on. Depending on your build, this would probably be up here. But I still think that Fat Mines into the late game are more so like stealth explosives. I don't know. That's like really specific. That's probably more specific than pacifism, so I'm going to put it there. Shotgun Surgeon, obviously if you're doing shotguns. And honestly, shotguns are just so strong that they're like here anyways. Shotguns are really powerful. The Riot shotgun has 12 shots in it, which in conjunction with another perk we'll get to just has like an insane potential in combat. Dinner Bell obviously benefits not only from this but rapid reload. Either one of them fits with this really. I want to say that Shotgun Surgeon even works on like the long carabine, or however you pronounce it, that you can get from I don't know his name. Single shotgun, big boomer, right shotgun, lever, shotgun, hunting shotgun. No, so it doesn't work on the repeater. Yeah, the dinner bell and the riot shotgun are insane. When you combine the shotgun perks with crit builds and VATs, you just like absolutely annihilate everything in the game. Same with a lot of builds, but it's really fun, especially with Bloody Mess. The Professional is plus crit chance when you do stealth. No, it's not chance, it's damage. Inflict additional 20%. 20% isn't really that substantial for how specific it is to deal stealth damage with those types of weapons. I mean, if this is your build, it's your build, but you know what? Maybe we should create like another tier, like good build goats and like bad build goats. Then I'll make it like blue. And then like pacifism during weapons. Cannibals. Cannibal doesn't matter. We'll put pacifism down here because pacifism is really hard to make work on like a full game playthrough when you're not just speedrunning. And heave ho, because you really just won't be throwing weapons late game unless you want to. And then this is outside of VATs, so yeah, we'll keep it like this for now. Toughness, dude, this is always good. But it's just plus 3 damage threshold, plus 6 for 2 perks is just not. It's just not quite enough. But if you're doing like travel light, light touch pacifism, this is invaluable. And just always having more damage threshold is good because damage threshold is a solid subtraction as opposed to the percentage you used in Fallout 3. So yeah, just always having this is like objectively just always great. But yeah. Maybe, you know what? It's just flatly good. We'll put it like here. And then this is Vigilant Recycler, right? Vigilant Recycler is like necessary for... Let me make sure that's the right image so I don't mistier everything. Yeah, the Recycler is like necessary for energy weapon builds. And energy weapon builds are viable. The only issue with the energy weapons is you just gotta make it to Novak. But if you can do that, energy weapons are like insanely overpowered. Energy weapons into the late game are like way better than any other build. The problem is just that you really struggle until you make it to RepCon. And that's not really that fun. That's why a lot of people would prefer guns. Just because they're like fun the entire game. But yeah, this is better than Gunslinger, Rapid Reload, Shotgun Surgeon. And I think those are all better than Demolition Expert too. Yeah, we'll do it like this. But you also have to consider that even if you're not using energy weapons, you can still convert it to like max charge ammo and sell it for more, I believe. And when you're doing the DLCs, you'll probably use the Hollow Rifle if you do a level 1 DLC build. Vigilant Recycler Hollow Rifle is invaluable in dead money. And you'll reach level 6 pretty quickly in Dead Money, so you'll be able to get it if you want. Commando is obviously necessary. For more gun builds than just shotguns, so it's like higher. The anti-material rifle is like one of the strongest builds you can make. The Gobi Campaign Scout rifle is like incredibly strong. This affects shotguns too, so like Dinner Bell and Riot Shotgun are really powerful. I believe it affects the light machine gun, which is like the best automatic weapon or something like that. So yeah, just a really powerful VATs accuracy boost for all those is really nice. Less so for the snipers, but even then in mid-range, this is really valuable. Because it can be harder to aim scoped sniper rifles in mid-range, especially in New Vegas' like horrible combat engine. Commando is really high. Cowboy. Dynamite, hatchets, knives, revolvers, and lever action shotguns. I want to say that this is like a bad build goat because all those have pretty like mid-game cap, like where they cap off in the mid-game. The only exception is Chance's knife, the long carabine, and the mysterious magnum, along with Lucky, which actually because of the Lucky potential pushes it up like to here. Cowboy is actually really good. It's very good to get early on because it helps with a lot of early and mid-game weapons, and then the late-game weapons you can get super strong like Lucky, just get even stronger with it, so it's like useful at every point. Those weapons are also just fun to use. This one is Grunt, though. And it's a DLC one. I think it's, is it Dead Money? No, it's Honest Hearts. Why do I keep opening them? I can just read it right here. 9mm pistol, submachine guns, .45 pistol, submachine gun, service rifles. All those are like pretty good. The biggest one here for me is grenade launchers, which are just amazing because they're like really powerful. And then obviously if you want to do like Advance's gun build, the Advance's 9mm, this perk would be necessary. I don't really see frag grenades or combat knives in the late game, but assault and marksman carbines, that's all pretty good, and you can get it pretty early. Let's see. Plus it's just flat damage, which is really nice. How often are you doing Vance's guns and all that late game? I think it's probably still more on the rare side, but it's still pretty good. This is Home on the Range, I believe. Yeah, so this is a DLC one. In game, you just kind of get to pick all of them, so I lose track of which ones all of them are. I need to stop doing that out of habit. Interacting with campfires gives you the option for sleep, which means you can get bonus experience. It's worthless. Even on hardcore mode with like 1 endurance, you can just sleep like 1 time and then go like 4 in-game days without getting like the first stage of sleep deprivation. Sleep is just such a worthless thing to worry about in this game. The one use that I could see this having is for like XP management with pacifism. But that's like super niche. And realistically, when are you not just able to sleep and then go complete the quest? Because when you think about it, most quests in the game finish by like going and talking to some dipshit. Like, you can go and do whatever you want in the quest, but the quest always ends by saying, "Hey, I did the thing," and the guy will go, "Cool," and then you'll get the experience. So like, you're always in a context where you can just go sleep anyways. But I still see this being more useful than all these, especially if you're playing in casual mode. This would actually be pretty good, but it's not. So, Living Anatomy. I know this one without looking at it, and I know the effects too. You gain +5 damage against humans and non-feral ghouls. Or it's humans and ghouls, I think, even if they're feral. And you're able to tell how much health and damage threshold the enemy has. This is just always really good. The flat damage buff, that impacts a lot of enemies in the game. And then on top of that, being able to see how much health they have, how much damage. The big thing is damage threshold. If you just don't want to look up everything with a guide online. This means that, like, when you fight one enemy, you can prepare the next time, like, to switch to armor piercing. But the flat damage is good. I think it's always good, but never great. Just for me, though, this is like a necessary pick because I love the way that it changes the HUD. We'll actually look this one up. I want to show it because I want to explain why I always pick it, even though it's like worthless. Is there like a picture example? Yeah, look at that. What's up? Look at that, HP 250, DT 15. Yeah, I love how it changes the HUD. Like, it's so hard to go from like a full playthrough where you have this to like getting out of good springs and everything is just like a flat bar. There's something about that that really does it for me. Hang on, I got a text. Why did I do that? Although I know what this one is, just looking at it. I gotta stop doing that, man. I'm so bad at this. This is Pack Rat, and I think Pack Rat is like almost always great. I think the only cases where Pack Rat is not worth it is if you're playing a no DLC light armor melee unarmed build, because your armor won't be affected because none of the base game armor is light enough. Your weapon won't be affected because you don't have ammo. But like even then, it's just always effective for like picking things up that's worth selling. Especially in pacifism, where you'll have to keep like more healing supplies on to like just throw regen on when you try to like brute force an area by dashing through it. I think Pack Rat is like almost always good. Pack Rat also means that depending on how you do your build, you can just take off strength. Because you'll feel the pounds of equipment that you've shed off carrying Pack Rat more than like a 10 or 20 stat difference in the strength department for the weight. I think Pack Rat is just always good. It also has the pretty massive effect of changing your first visit to Zion with the Honest Hearts DLC, which is always pretty good. But there's a lot of other ways too, so I'm not going to give it too much credit for that, but it is nice. Quick Draw is bad. I think that at its highest potential, it's like still better than the money ones. Quick Draw sounds like it would be really good, especially for like a weapon like a missile launcher, so that you can get it out faster and use it before the enemy gets too close. The difference is that you only draw it 50% faster, and I'm not shitting you, I've picked it, and you really can't tell a difference at 10 agility. If you have 10 agility, you're not going to notice Quick Draw. It's negligible, and at that point, it's just not worth it. Does Quick Draw have requirements too? I think it does, right? Yeah, you have to have agility 5. I just don't think you'll ever notice Quick Draw. Not to mention that you can just keep your weapons out when you're exploring somewhere dangerous, which is what I do, but some people don't like that for like the way it clutters up the screen, which I also understand because I do too. But just in general, You know, if you're in a vault, keep your weapon drawn. If you see it on the radar, draw your weapon. I think quick draw would mainly be for surprise attacks. Except for the fact that the only enemies that will surprise attack you literally march up to you and say, prepare yourself for battle, we're gonna beat your ass. So, quick draw is literally worthless. It never does anything. But maybe you can use it in more situations than you need excess money. So, this is rad resistance. Plus 25 radiation resistance. It's good. Just flatly good, actually. The problem is just you could pick another perk and carry Radix, which is weightless in hardcore mode. So there's like no point to this. Plus, once your medicine is like 60 or 70, your radiation resistance will cap out at 85. With Radix, you can't hit 100 resistance like you could in Fallout 1. Haven't played that game, but I know you could. That's how you're supposed to beat that one whole level. So yeah, this perk is worthless once you get your medicine high enough, and you'll probably get your medicine high enough. Unless you're specifically role-playing as like a very stupid person that doesn't want to level up their medicine. Not you being stupid, but like the character, you know? Like you just don't want to level up their medicine because they're like not that kind of person, but yeah, realistically every build, this will become obsolete. So it's just, I think it's honestly just down here. The effect is strong early on though. This is Scrounger. Scrounger has a specific use because early on, certain ammo types are rare to find that you can buy, but there are certain set locations where certain ammos are like almost guaranteed. So being able to increase the amount of ammo you get early on in those stashes is nice. You just won't feel it later on, it's the problem. But it's better than Fortune Finder. This is Sneering Imperialist. This one's Honest Hearts. So let's look at the specific enemies this affects. Fiends, Freeside Thug, Jackal Gang members, Freeside Locals, Viper Gunslinger, Sorrows, Dead Horses, White Legs. Great Khans, Refugees, Wastelanders, Freeside Squatters. Dixon, Graham, Oscar, Sarah. Melissa So, okay, that's the con girl. So it's just cons and fiends. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's obviously like a flat damage increase, right? It's just like literally, I think it said it just there, right? Yeah, the relative merit is dubious. That's a funny way to phrase that. To just say it's like useful now, not useful later. Yeah, it's just kind of whatever. At like level 50, you won't feel a difference. At level 30, man, you won't even be feeling a difference. Those enemies are all like light armor, easy to kill. The only one of these that you actually might want, you unironically might want to take the perk for, is if you plan on trying to kill Joshua. Joshua Graham on like more difficult difficulties is like actually really tough, especially if you're under leveled. And this is an early perk, so I could see that. And this is Stonewall, which means you can't be knocked down in combat. This is actually just like flatly good. There's like no situation where you don't want this. The only thing is just that the requirements for it make it so that you probably won't pick it. Yeah, Strength 6 and Endurance 6. Plus DT against melee and unarmed cannot be knocked down. So you don't really care about the DT, you care about not being able to be knocked down. Being knocked down by like a death claw is just like game over. Right? Being knocked down by like night stalkers, they'll swarm you. So the actual useful words for that is that. The reason this is the lowest on here is because the strength 6 requirement and endurance 6 requirement is pretty steep for some builds. But if you can get it, you should always consider it. One sec. Sorry about that, I'm texting someone. I get to cook fajitas tonight. I'm so excited. I get to cook fajitas and then sleep and then do more streaming. Because that's the cycle, baby. I'm going to be a streamer, damn it. Nah, I'm not complaining. This shit's amazing. Strong back. This perk really depends on your preferences. Strong back is really good if you are, how would you put it, if you play the game honorably. So, the Veronica glitch is a glitch where when all 3 of her quest triggers are activated, you can basically tell her, I don't want to talk about it, and then you can ask her, what did you want to talk about earlier? And then from there, you tell her to go back on her own. But whenever you talk to her, the option to talk about the quest is permanently in there, and the option to dismiss her is permanently in her quest dialogue too. So this means that you can dismiss her while you have a companion. So if you have Boone as a companion, you can talk to Veronica while she's not a companion, and dismiss her. This dismisses the companion block on Boone, and then you can ask her to be a follower and have Boone and Veronica. You can do this with every follower in the game, but you have to choose between Eddie or Rex. If you do this, this perk is garbage. It's literally worthless if you do that. However, Strong Back has use for characters who do heavy armor, so like T45 plus like minigun, right? Obviously for that kind of build, it's like up here. It also has use always for like DLC, being able to carry more shit to Big Mountain and Honest Hearts the first time is really nice. And if you play honorably and you only have one companion, they're going to have a lot of ammunition and armor on them anyway, so they won't be good pack mules. So this could have use. I'm going to say that, like, depending on the build, it's like actually kind of here. So yeah. Because if you do like a power armor build with like a Gatling laser or a missile launcher, you're gonna want this, but you can literally invalidate it with companions. I've actually had builds where I've built a heavy armor character that has all the companions in power armor too, and I would literally designate like, okay, all the excess ammunition I pick up would go to Raul, and then all the weapons would go to like Veronica. It just depends. Strong Back is especially goated for melee unarmed builds. I would assume because of T45B. I'll put it up here because it has a lot of applications. And if you plan on doing the DLCs at level 1, Strong Back is really useful for those DLCs because you'll have to carry a lot more. Because you'll have to like carry a ton of food in like Sierra Madre and all that. It has a lot of use, but I think it's kind of weird. We'll put it like up here. This is Super Slam, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah. And dude, this is goat. This is like probably the best perk in the game for a melee unarmed build. Yeah, I'm having a real tough time. I think it's like here. I think like shotguns and hollow rifle builds for rapid reload are better. But Super Slam is ridiculous. Super Slam just means that you get greased lightning and then you can beat any enemy in the game. Super Slam just gives you the ability to knock down your opponent in combat and just like ragdolls them. And I can literally just like YouTube video this one. It's like super cheesy. It just like invalidates so many combat scenarios. Super Slam means that when you start fighting Deathclaws with unarmed builds, you basically just save, and then you run in and you try to knock them down, and if you knock them down, you win. And if you don't, you've still got a good chance, because you're still like a high build. It's like ungodly powerful. The thing is, I just think that unarmed and melee kind of cap out lower than like really high-end like shotgun energy weapons, but that's pretty good. It's way better than explosives, I would say, because like you can still defend yourself in close quarters. Explosives struggle with that, so once you knock them down, you can just stomp them with the ballistic fist equipped, and then it's over. Yeah, greased lightning is the best for knocking them down, and then when they're down, you can switch weapons. I can't remember if this works with like the industrial hand, but if it does, that's like really crazy. Terrifying presence. Terrifying presence is really weird to rank. So the problem is terrifying presence requires 70 speech. And you have an option to initiate combat that'll send them fleeing. This is really weird to rank because I think that for some... It's weird because it's more useful for a pacifist build than like a non-pacifist build. This is more so just for role-playing. But if you have 70 speech, you don't need dialogue checks, right? Because you've already got enough speech. So the more useful is making your opponent like run from you for the first 5 seconds in a pacifist build so that you can run away faster. Even then, that's really niche, and I think that more pacifist builds would just resolve the situation peacefully and not initiate any combat. So it's like kind of here. Terrifying Presence is really weird to rank. Terrifying Presence also just has like no like checks really. Okay, DLC. Okay, there's way more than I thought. But still, so many of these are just instances where you can just, like, resolve the conversation and then kill them afterwards anyways. It's more for role-playing. So if you're role-playing, obviously take this if you want to be, like, a psychopath. One of the choices here I heavily disagree with Old World Gourmet. My opinion, in my honest opinion, it'd be at the very top. But it really is opportunity-driven in the end. What's Old World Gourmet? Is it the addiction one? It just depends, really. I don't... Where did I put it? Yeah, opportunity cost. It's just, like, near the end game, I just don't think you would feel it. But, like, specifically for Old World Blues, or not Old World Blues, for Dead Money, if you pick it early on, it's, like, really valuable because of the context of that DLC. If you do, like, a level 1 Dead Money run, you could pick this. but you wouldn't feel it at like level 30, level 40. That's why I put it solo. This is Tribal Wisdom, but I don't know what it does. 50 minus limb damage from animals. Poison resistance, and you can eat insects in sneak mode. I don't think any one of those are really that great. It's like here. If you plan on like clearing out like a Cazador nest like without any companions, maybe you could pick it, but you just won't feel it anytime you fight anything other than like Cazadors. So I'm gonna put it like down here. And Stay Back. This is if Super Slam got combined with shotguns. And Stay Back is just one of the nuttiest of like perks in the game. The Riot shotgun is the best abuser of and Stay Back in the game. You get 12 rounds. So it just means that if you do that, you can rapid fire into an opponent and beanbag them down. And then just keep shooting them. Just reload and then shoot them again while they're down. And Stay Back is like ridiculously overpowered. Especially if you're fighting on like terrain, you can knock them down over cliffs and stuff and kill them that way. Like in that video. But yeah, it's super goofy. Animal Friend. So this actually has 2 stages unless I'm mistaken. Charisma 6, Survival 45. Wild animals become neutral, and they'll help you against other people, but not animals. So kind of like with Hunter, we already went over, that like, they aren't really that big of a threat in the first place. Like, a lot of animals just won't even attack you if you don't run up to them. And them helping you doesn't matter because they're weak. So, you don't ever really have a use for this. The difference is that this actually helps you with, like, geckos. Which early on can be a little menacing, and lake lurks, but you don't really fight them enough. This not only is like not that great, but you have to have high charisma. And high charisma is very rarely useful on a build. I would put it like probably down here. It's not very great. And then what does Fight the Power do? +2 damage threshold, critical chance against anyone wearing faction armor. If you are playing hostilely against the Legion, this is obviously nice, but it's actually better if you're playing Legion, which will fight NCR, or if you're playing a faction that wipes out the Brotherhood. Because fighting those enemies is actually kind of more annoying and difficult. The Legion is actually very easy to defeat outside of like hit squads. So that's not the big draw. The big draw is NCR hit squads, which are like insanely difficult early on. And Brotherhood of Steel, which is like really difficult at most points in the game. The thing is, just +2 damage threshold and +5 critical hit is actually like really good for an amp. The big thing is just crit chance. If you're doing a crit build and you're doing like independent and you just want to like antagonize every faction, then yeah, you would pick this perk. This will go up into GOAT, like for build specific ones. But I think the specifics where you pick this are still less than explosives in general. Finesse is like probably here. Finesse is just flat +5% crit chance, which is just nuts. Crit builds are the strongest type of combat build in the game. And yeah, being able to just crit more often is always good. Plus, it doesn't have like any requirements. You just literally just have to hit level 10. So yeah, that's just really ridiculous and free. A lot of these are like kind of annoying to get because you have to level up your special stats and your skills. You have to plan them so that they'll be at certain points by the right time. You can just like get finesse for free. I think that makes it too strong, low key. But I do think it's a little worse than Bloody Mess, because Bloody Mess applies to every combat build. This only applies to crit builds. Plus, this is earlier, so we'll leave it there. Here and Now, it's bad. I think it's better than Friend of the Night, but yeah, not really by much. Here and Now has one specific use, and that is for pacifist builds. If you want to play through more of the game while being a pacifist, you care more about your immediate skill points than your perks necessarily, because you'll just learn to run from every encounter. But yeah, most of the time Here and Now is fucking garbage. Here and Now is so stupid. Man, I'm trying to defend it really hard, but who plays a game and is just like, I don't want to play it. Give me a perk that lets me skip the game. It's so dumb. It's literally just, it's losing a same level in GTA like 5 times and getting to skip it. It's so dumb. Just play the fucking game. If you're doing like maybe some type of speed type thing, not a speed run, because you don't have to, speed runs are way more optimized, but like maybe if you're doing pacifist, this has some value. I'm trying really hard, man. I don't know what you would use this for, because even if you're a pacifist, you want things like this. And like even Light Touch has use for pacifists. You know what? We'll say that for a pacifist build, it could be okay. But it and Swift Learner are really bad. More like Here and Never. R.I.P. Yeah, they're on the bad build. This is Mathrath, and Mathrath is really good. This really entirely depends on how you value VATs. Personally, I love VATs. This is like a really bizarre way to phrase it, but I think that Fallout New Vegas' combat is like very bad. Like extremely bad. And that VATs is the thing that keeps it from falling apart. Like if you play games for the gunplay, I don't think you should play New Vegas. But I like that it's almost like the combat is like almost bad on purpose, and then VATs is like your tool to mitigate that. It kind of keeps it to where like New Vegas is almost turn-based, despite being real-time. I actually think that's really cool. That's the reason I can never get into Fallout 4, because Fallout 4 is like a straight-up like FPS. Whereas New Vegas is like not really, because I don't care how good your hands are, man. That engine does not really work with you all the time. But VATS builds, I think, are more common than energy weapon builds. What's the difference between Misfortune and Mysterious Stranger? Incapacitate. Does that mean kill? Bro, what is this effect? Yeah. It's showing up to help you, but it doesn't even kill the opponent. Not to mention that I used to always pick these two, but the VATS targeting system will just glitch out a lot. Maybe this is better on PC, but on console, Mysterious Stranger and Misfortune are like actually unplayable. Because you'll just like keep dying, because you'll get stuck in the VATS animation. I'm actually going to put them like down here because of that. Because they don't function as intended. Like they're literally just kind of like that. If you're running like a more stable version on PC that like has a mod for it, they're like up here somewhere with VATs and crit builds, all that, because of them being luck dependent. But yeah. Mr. Sandman is very hard to rank. There are instances where you'll want to passively, quietly kill an opponent when they're asleep. The problem is that if they're asleep, you've either already got enough stealth to get away with a kill, like if they're in the overworld and they're an enemy and they're already hostile. But if they're not hostile, you can just sneak around, and even if they notice you while they're asleep, they just like won't do anything, and you can just wait until you're hidden. So it's kind of worthless in that respect. It's more so just for role players who like want to have more interesting ways to kill people. The bonus XP is nice, but you don't need XP. Yeah, if you're already close, you can just either stab or fist them. Yeah. It's way more for roleplay, which is something I like about a lot of these perks. But it's just not very good for a tier list setting. Nerd Rage. This one is like, what, 10 damage threshold? 15, and strength increased to 10 when you're in 20 health or lower. So that does make you hard to kill. You could abuse this by hitting yourself with explosives so that you can carry more stuff. What are the requirements? Intelligence 5, Science 50. Yeah, this is always going to be like a positive, because if you get that low, becoming harder to kill is going to help. Especially if you're doing a light armor build. And most builds can kind of slot in room for science. But at the same time, unless you're role-playing, I don't know a situation where you would go out of your way to pick this, like for all these. So I don't know. But that is like an objectively always useful benefit. You can either manipulate for the carry weight, or you can, it'll save your ass when you're down. But I don't think it's ever going to be great. Night Person. Some of these I don't use as much. 2 intelligence, 2 perception, 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. Yeah, it's like bad. I guess you can manipulate for it. If you're getting shot at by small arms fire, then Nerd Rage is pretty rad. It has its uses. I just don't think it's like build defining. Night Person is like okay. The big thing is that these are just temporary amps, and you can manipulate the time of day pretty easily, but I guess it's only really useful because those are like 2 good temporary amps because of like lockpicking, like medicine, science, but you're only using it for the skill check increases, really, like how you would stack this with like mentats for lockpicking, but once you're high enough level, you just don't notice it, so it doesn't increase the skill points when you level up at night. If it did, that'd be different, but yeah, this is kind of whatever. Plasma Spaz, though, is like mandatory if you want to do a plasma build. And I think that a plasma build is like probably right here. Let me make sure I'm not getting it wrong. AP cost for all plasma weapons are reduced by 20%. Yeah, so it's not only if you want to use a plasma weapon late game, but you also are using VATs for it. So other than, if you don't use VATs, it's literally worthless. But if you do use VATs, it's like pretty good. If you're doing energy weapons, you should probably be going for or laser weapons specifically, or the Gauss rifle. Okay, you basically want to go for Tri-Beam, Elijah's Lair, a Gauss rifle or hollow rifle. And if you're not doing one of those, then I guess you could use plasma weapons too. But it's not going to go up here with like Vigilant or Cycler. Plasma weapons are powerful, and it is fun to turn things into goo, but other than that, it's just not as strong as I think these are. Alertness. This one's a Lonesome Road, right? +2 perception when crouched and still. The entire point of this is to kind of scout for enemies. The problem is it's invalidated by Eddie, so you either have Eddie in the base game or you're playing a DLC, and in the DLC, enemies either like have auto track on you because those DLC are kind of bullshit, or you're just wide enough in an open area to like notice the enemy, or they spawn in, so it's worthless either way. And Eddie just invalidates this perk. That's kind of the problem. If you're specifically role-playing as like a hard-ass sniper, this obviously has some use, but yeah, I don't know. Invalidated by Eddie. And I don't know, man. I don't know what game you're playing where you're level 12 before you have Eddie. So. Actually, it's like down here. Fast metabolism is like the definition of always good, never great. You don't need the increase because you're always healing enough with Stim Pack plus Super Stim Pack plus Sunset Sarsaparilla plus L plus ratio, but you know, you're glad you have it. You know, you're not like upset you have it. And like if you don't have anything better to pick, you'd pick it. But I mean, like, yeah, just flatly healing better is whatever. The problem is it's plus 20%, unless I'm mistaken. We'll go check. Because I don't want to be wrong. Spread misinformation. Where is it? Wait. Plus 20% hit points. Yeah, it's just too minor. I think if it was like 50, it would go like all the way to here, but 20% you just don't really feel. Especially in hardcore mode where it's over time. I think in general though, it's probably more useful than like Hand Loader. And Nerd Rage is more useful than here. Wait, Educated, never mind. This one's Ghastly Scavenger from Dead Money, right? Or I don't actually know which one this is. Oh, Ghastly Scavenger's in the base game. Oh, that's actually really embarrassing. I didn't know that. I could have sworn this was added with Dead Money. Yeah, you can eat super mutants and feral ghouls to regain hit points. Where did I put Cannibal? Dude, you know what? This is just fucking ass. There's no way to justify it. What are you doing with this? The thing is, there's a lot of people to eat, but there's not that many super mutants. In fact, it's pretty infamous that, what the challenge called? Is it Vault 13's Revenge? Where you have to kill super mutants with, weapons that, what's the first one? The first one, the Vault Dweller? That the Vault Dweller used in the first Fallout game? So, like, I've actually had to look up where to find more super mutants, because if you don't wipe out Jacobstown, there's like not enough in the game to do it, and you have to like use Black Mountain respawns. Feral ghouls there's more of, but not enough really. At least there's people everywhere. So if you want to roleplay, it's really fun. Plus, it helps with starvation. You can just eat people instead of carrying around food. But there's no excuse for this. It's like still better than Animal Friend, though. You know what? You probably run into more. You run into more animals than you would have starved because you didn't eat a ghoul. What do I like there? Fake fan. I'm a fake fan, man. Doesn't matter how many hours you have. You can always be a fake fan. This is heavyweight. I know that one. Because this one's a DLC one for sure. Yeah. Weapons with weight of more than 10 or cut in half. Does not. This is the big thing, though. This does not affect weapons modded to under 10 weight. There's like a really weird specific example, I think, where the anti-material rifle is like actually more beneficial to not mod with this perk than to have the mod installed or something weird like that. What is it? There's one weapon where if you mod it, it weighs more than if it was cut in half by this perk. That's all I know about it. It's like, okay, it's just build dependent. It's good to have this. It makes your fat mans less heavy. Like, it turns, Esther, is that how you say it? From, like, 40 pounds to 20, which is pretty noticeable. But just in general, taking it to specifically reduce weapon weight is really, really specific. Unless you're carrying around, like, a minigun, a missile launcher, a chainsaw, like, all on one person. And at that point, you probably already built to, like, have, like, max strength, a strong back, and pack rat for the ammo. But this is kind of just overkill, but if you're going for it, man, go for it. This is hit the deck, and this is invaluable for explosives. It's actually probably gonna... Yeah, it's... Hit the deck is all explosives, though, right? Yeah, 25 DT against explosives in general. It's better than upping your explosive damage, because you can actually take this as any build, as long as you have the requirement, which is pretty steep, but maybe you do. But this has application outside of just an explosives build. You could take it late game. I don't know. But you could take it and not ever use an explosive and just be stronger against them. This also helps you survive your own, so it's useful for both. Hobbler. Hobbler is like the top of opportunity cost because, in theory, this is actually an amazing perk. It's like really good as an effect. The problem with Hobbler is that once you stop like dying to rad scorpions in the early game, you never use it again. So crippling legs is really effective so that you can either run away if the enemy is too strong or kill them because of how much longer it'll take, and you can like run away and stall in battle and all that. But if you're strong enough, you should just be killing them. And at that point, you should either use Center of Mass or Sniper. This would be, like, more useful, like, before you could obtain this perk. Right? Because Hobbler, it's a DLC perk. And it's, like, what, level 12. So, like, that's about the point where you can start just taking on enemies that are, like, a little bit stronger. And you don't need to cripple them every battle. Like, Hobbler just isn't useful at the point you get it. If this was like a level 6 perk, it would be like probably somewhere in here, but I don't know. I wonder if Hobbler... I wonder how it affects Cazadors. it doesn't. It looks like it doesn't work with the wings, so it doesn't matter. Life Giver. I think it's always good. I think it's like better than fast metabolism. Having more health to lose is better than getting more back when you're injured. Endurance 6 isn't too steep. You'll probably want endurance anyways. But you just won't notice it too much, but it's objectively good to have. I think if it was plus 50, that would be really good. It'd probably be a little better, but it's just not insane. But it is good, like objectively. Long haul is really weird. I think long haul is bad. Where's the money ones? So like, it sounds really good on paper, but I can't stand walking really slow in New Vegas. That's being kind of specific because New Vegas, you don't run very fast at all, but the actual walking speed is atrocious, and I can't stand long haul movement speed. And then from there, you've just got things like going light on weaponry, pack rat, companions, strong back. All those approaches are much better than this. Especially considering that all those have value in like the DLC areas like dead money or whatever. But like long haul doesn't really work as well in those DLC because like you've got to like find everywhere first. And especially in dead money where you're not allowed to fast travel for whatever reason, you know. It's much less useful. I think it's just bad. But maybe there's some insane build I haven't seen yet. Cool. I need some water, man. My throat's dying. Piercing Strike. This one's base game, I think, and you just ignore damage when you attack with melee and armed, right? 15 points of DT. You can hit a Deathclaw for normal damage. That's ridiculous. It's right below Super Slam, but it's really good. Especially helpful for the weapons that don't automatically ignore more DT. But yeah, this means you can just start wailing on shit. Like even stronger. Because there is no like armor piercing equivalent for unarmed weapons other than to switch to the ones that do, but they're not generally as good. This means that you can still just keep on greased lightning and start wailing on shit. I think Super Slam is still better because it doesn't matter if it takes 20 punches if they're lying on the ground the entire time. Whereas with Piercing Strike, you would need to still land like 5, you know? But yeah. Pyromaniac. Obviously, if you're doing a build related to this, it's necessary. I think it's like marginally better than a pacifist run to use Pyromaniac weapons. Yeah, because like, what are the better fire weapons? Like Gehenna, I think is probably the best fire weapon in the game. Yeah, probably like a melee build with Gehenna. Interestingly enough, Pyromaniac, unless I'm mistaken, requires, explosives. And the only fire-based explosives are like different ammunition types and grenades. It's really weird. I feel like Pyromaniac should have been like, I don't know, like energy weapons, probably, because of like the incinerator and all that. I don't know. Now, what is this one? Robotics expert. You can shut down robots by sneaking up on them and deactivating. So this is kind of weird. Tempted to say that it has like pacifist build potential, but I think logically deactivating a robot is the same thing as killing them. Like, I think that's kind of objective. So at that point, it's not really useful for pacifism. But if you're close enough to sneak up on them that you can shut them off, you can hit them. And before you sneak up that close in the first place, you can snipe them. There's no world where you're using this. Unless you're going for some weird challenge run where you have to like use the worst perks in the game. I don't know. But there's like no robots anyways, unless you're playing like, Old World Blues. And I think Robotics Expert doesn't even work on the giant Robo-Scorpion boss fight anyways. Oh, that's really goofy, actually. I didn't know that. You can just straight up charge them. Yeah, plus you get less experience. Which, I mean, I know it's not that big of a deal, but like... Yeah, I don't know. The damage buff is nice. But there's not enough robots in the game to justify it. The only... I'll put it like here in case Old World Blues, you're like really struggling and you pick it. But like, man, outside of that one DLC, you're not fighting very many robots. Silent running. For a stealth build, this is just insane. Running doesn't factor to excessive. Yeah, so it just speeds up how fast you get to play the game when you do a stealth build, which I guess isn't that important. If you're doing a stealth build, you're probably pretty patient. But it's convenient. I think stealth is like... I think in general it's probably like better than explosives. Being a cowboy. Just flat stealth. Because you can combine stealth with any other weapon type. So it's like pretty good. Sniper is really high up. The head is usually the best place on the body to aim for. You just deal so much more damage by default. I think it's like double damage if you get a headshot on someone, and then having a higher chance to hit that kind of damage increase is really nice. The alternative is center of mass. The problem is that dealing 15% damage to an easier to hit area, it's more worth it in the long run to do sniper. The only exception is like if you're doing shotguns, maybe do center of mass and sniper, but kind of rare. But yeah, just in general, really good. But it is VATs dependent, so finesse would still be higher. Obviously, these two. This is splash damage, which is next to the other explosive perks, but it's below them. Splash damage is good because it increases the range you can hit enemies, but that also means you'll hit yourself more often. You basically need hit the deck if you want to use splash damage. And you have to be really careful about companions. Companions are really annoying to use with splash damage explosive builds. But explosive builds are still good because explosives are so strong. So they're this high. This is Unstoppable Force. So it's useful, but the least useful of the three. If you attack a blocking enemy, you annihilate them. You deal basically, I think, equivalent to like what double damage would normally be. So it's good. The problem is that if you have Super Slam, you're not going to be dealing with blocking enemies at all. So yeah, I don't think it's that useful. But for the build, you would pick all three, just for any scenario. So it has to go this high at least. Adamantium Skeleton. This one's probably just like objectively great. I think it's always good, never great. You don't feel it too bad, and the problem is the availability. So 14 is too late for this because this is about the point in the game for most builds where you'll be able to start actually getting like doctor's bags, and you'll have enough money to always go to the doctor. And especially because like at 14, you can probably try old world blues, and yeah, you really don't need doctor's bag if you have the artificial ones. So it's kind of weird to rank. The benefit is really strong, but it's gimped by its availability. If this was like level like 6 or 8, it'd be like here. But yeah, it's just too late, I think. Because by that point you have access to like doctor's bag, and you've probably leveled up your medicine enough to like start making them. So yeah. Let me go in there. Center of mass. Really good, but probably not quite as useful as Mathrath, because this is like specifically like shotguns. Because it is VATs only, so yeah, it's just like here. This is Chemist, but I don't know what Chemist does. I don't use chems very often. Chems, and in hardcore mode, stim packs last twice as long. So it essentially doubles your stim pack healing. In hardcore mode, which I'm assuming you're playing. I think hardcore mode is a general improvement. I kind of dislike companion death, but that's like it. So I think in general it's good to put that on. Where did I put it? I lost it. Oh no, I lost it. Where did it go? Where is it? Where? There we are. Better than fast metabolism, wherever that ended up. Chem builds can be really strong because of stuff like Psycho and Med-X and Slasher and all that. Not to mention like Jet and Rebound with a VATS build are just insane. The problem is you really don't need it. They're like overkill. Maybe on like the more hard difficulties, this is a much better perk. But I think it's just way better than these two, because stim packs lasting twice as long is just insane. It's like almost enough to make this worth picking if you don't have something else to pick. But other than that, it's not really. I don't think you would. I guess because you could do a chems build, but chems are more like an additive to any build you're doing. So I don't think it's really fair to say that. That's like saying you can pick toughness for any build. I don't know. Jury rigging, always good. No matter what you're doing, you're wearing armor. And no matter what you're doing, you're selling shit. Jury rigging helps your armor stay in better shape, and it makes everything you pick up repairable onto the most valuable object to sell for more money. Jury rigging is insane. It lets you use weapons like Gauss rifles without having to spend like 10,000 to repair it every time it goes low, or having to like bend over backwards for weapon repair kits. It lets you use T45B and repair it with metal armor, which is invaluable. It lets you repair, like, if you're doing a light armor build, your leather armor with, like, just normal clothes. Like, all light armor is interchangeable, which is insane. Yeah, the only builds that don't necessarily benefit from this too much are, like, explosive medium armor builds. It's kind of weird. I don't know why you're doing that, but I guess. But I think, honestly, this is probably, like, the most... It's probably the best perk in the game. I don't know many perks that are going to be better than jury rigging. I think the one downside to jury rigging is that you have to have like 90 repair, which is pretty steep. But like it's not impossible. Jury rigging having a repair of 90 also just gives you some good skill checks throughout the game, like the food processor, vault elevators, stuff like that. And with a repair skill of 90, everything that you're cross-repairing through jury rigging is gonna repair much faster, which gives you more things to sell. So it like speeds up your economy climb, which is convenient. And it helps you use items that just are not feasible otherwise. Like, it's so nice to be able to use like a recharger pistol and just repair it with like a laser pistol. It's so convenient. Even if you're doing like a pacifist run, being able to wear like light armor, reinforced leather armor, and then get shot up all the time and repair it with like business wear is so nice. Jury rigging has to be. It's almost in a tier of its own. Low key, it's so useful. It just like warps how you like view picking up items to the point where you'll just change how you play the game a little bit, but like still not that bad. Pretty good. Light step is horrible. Light step is good for like dead money, and that's it. We'll put like these three together because they're useful for like just one DLC. Light step is really useful when you have, if you do dead money level 1. The problem, however, is that light step is 14. So you can't do dead money level 1 with it. So it's only useful for like specifically dead money if you go in at level 14, but you don't have the skill checks to pass it. It's kind of weird. Outside of dead money, there are just not enough explosives to justify, like traps to justify a perk around it. Like, oh no, you got your foot hurt in a bear trap. Just heal it. I don't know. Purifier is really good for unarmed builds. It doesn't sound like it would be, because you only do this against like this specific list of enemies. But you have to consider that Deathclaws, Night Stalkers, and Super Mutants are some of the hardest enemies to beat in the game, especially as an unarmed build. That having that boost is 50% extra damage, so it's flat. You'll notice it every time you fight a Deathclaw, that you were able to kill it much easier because of Purifier. So I think we'll go like here. Action Boy, Action Girl is better than Math because you can take it twice. Having 30 extra action points to just throw around in a battle is amazing. I think Sniper is better, because if you actually hit what you're aiming for, you don't need as many points, but pretty good either way. Better criticals. I think it's here. I think the fact that you have to have your perception higher than you could have otherwise just for this perk is annoying. And you'd rather hit criticals no matter what than get really lucky with one critical. But other than that, sorry, right here. This is chem resistant, but I don't know what it does. Half as likely to get addicted. Okay, so the problem. You have another thing down here that you could have picked earlier that helps with your resistance anyways. You have access to Fixer, you have access to Doctors, you have access to Old World Blues where you can get mechanical body parts that never get addicted. You have access to Logan's Loophole if you want to do a pure chem build. I don't see the point, but if you do a pure chem build, you would just pick Logan's Loophole. This has no application where it's ever necessary. It's better than this stuff. Meltdown. Where's Vigilant Recycler? It's like right here. The one downside to Meltdown is anytime you fight a group with allies, you basically have to use something other than energy weapons. It's kind of rare for this to be that much of a problem, but it can be. More so with NPCs in the game than Uh, more so with NPCs in the game than with companions. Like, if you're trying to fight a battle against the Legion with the NCR and you have Meltdown, you might kill your entire platoon. It's kind of annoying, but it's really powerful depending on the energy weapon you use. If you use, like, a Gauss rifle and sneak crit kill a mercenary group, you can chain kill the entire group with it. It's really fun. Meltdown is also goated for the level 1 DLC build where you do dead money first and you bank on the hollow rifle, because you'll always basically be fighting alone in the DLC. So just being able to chain kills on everything with it is really nice. Weapon handling. It's going to go above heavyweight, but I think it's bad because in general, I think you can afford... I think you have more perks to throw around than skill points, but at the same time, I think you can always just make it so that you have the strength for the weapon you're trying to use. I don't think this is necessary. I think this is more so like a first time playthrough perk, if that makes sense. It's a perk you would pick if, for instance, you tried to start the game thinking that, oh, you were going to do like shotguns, and then you found the anti-material rifle and you realized, oh, I actually want to like do that instead, right? But I think that for an actual build, you would just build your character around the weapon, not use the perk. So it has its uses, but in general, I think you'd rather distribute the strength. Unless you're doing some like specifically weird build where you need like 10 and 3 different stats. I don't know. But yeah, you just never need it. Good voice crack. Tag. It's going to go with the pacifist perks. I think it's actually better than Here and Now. And I should also move Educated up here for being pacifist build. So, Tag is like okay. 15 points immediately to one stat is really nice if you're playing with Logan's Loophole, or you're playing some type of specific build where you're not likely to hit all the level ups that you'll need for certain checks that are like important to you. You can pick this and bypass it. The problem is really just level 40, level 50, you'll have your skills that you need. So I don't think you'll feel this later on. But maybe for a pacifist run, you can pick Tag and instantly get something else. The problem is really just for pacifist. At level 16, you kind of already have your stats where you need them, because you're doing like more technical stuff like managing skill magazines and all that. But I don't know, maybe for a full game pacifist run, as much as you can without fighting, this is what you would do. This is Computer Whiz. This doesn't do anything. So there's a mechanic in the game where when you get down to your final guess, you can find brackets that close together on line of code. What this means is that you have you have 6 guesses before you are at your final guess. At that point, you can hit B and it restarts the minigame. You can do this infinitely. There's no point to ever do it. So this is literally just worthless. It's like, even at least these 3 have like intended use and they just don't function right. This one like is functioning right and it's worthless. Like, unless you're no saves coming, no whatever, you know, your self restrictions, but I don't really value that in a game like New Vegas. Concentrated fire, really good. think concentrated fire is like slightly better than center of mass. In general, you're probably not restricted to one VATS shot for a weapon unless you're doing like anti-material rifle builds. So being able to be more accurate each time you hit can be nice for ranged combat if you want to try and use VATS at long range. It's really good for like automatic weapons and VATS. Not much else to say. The big downside to concentrated fire, which actually I think is going to push it down below center of mass, and I'm not sure if this is intentional or not, but you have to have energy weapons and guns leveled up. Yeah, they don't mention anything about whether that was intentional or not. I think it was supposed to be, design-wise, supposed to be you could have one or. Because it's really weird, like most builds wouldn't put into both. You know what I mean? If you're going with energy weapons, you don't invest in guns, and vice versa. This is really weird. But, yeah. Infiltrator is computer whiz, but worse. So infiltrator means that you have another chance to unlock a jammed lock. However, the only way to jam a lock is to force the lock. This is an option you have, but you can just keep trying with bobby pins until you do it. Like, unless you literally just don't want to do the minigame and you just break every lock you find, there's no point to this. At least, like, you could... At least with the other one above it, you could go like, well, maybe I was sure it was this one, but I was wrong. But there is none of that. It's literally a choice to either jam the lock or to just play the game. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you, man. These two perks are bad. Paralyzing Palm. Obviously, if you do bare hand unarmed builds, this is really good. One use of this is that if you do an unarmed build, you can, instead of sneaking weapons into the casino like the brass knuckles, you can go in with your bare hands. It's better to take in love and hate, but it does feel awesome when you fucking knock someone out with a paralyzing palm VAT strike. But other than that, it's a weird specific build. I think it's got some use, you know, but this is Walker Instinct, and it's Lonesome Road, right? +1 perception and agility when outside. Agility is kind of like for action points, that's nice. Perception is for lockpicking. You just don't need those checks as often when you're outside. And it's invalidated by Eddie for the compass. So at that point, I don't know. It's like slightly better than alertness because you can move. This is Atomic. Alright, is it old voice? Move and attack speed, damage starts hold strength. AP regen scales from 1.1 times to 1.5 times. So the problem is, how many areas of the game are actually irradiated that you'll be fighting, like, anything tougher than a gecko in? And, like the boss fight in Vault 34 is kind of hard. Searchlight is difficult early on, but you're not level 20 if you're doing Searchlight early. The Courier's Mile, the Legion camp, and the NCR camp are actually really tough. So it's good for 3 boss fights, really. It's good for 3 tough areas in a boss fight. And at that point, I think it's like DLC kind of level. Yeah. I think, you know what, if you can Robotics Expert, the Robo Scorpion, the giant one, it's better than that. Explorer. I have no idea where to put this. You know what? Fuck it. We ball. We'll do bright blue too, just to rub it in. Explorer perk is fucking based. Dude, I don't want to hear it. Alright? I don't want to hear it. It's so fun the first time you play the game to just pick Explorer. And then go like, oh, I missed a spot. Because the first time you play the game, you don't want to fucking look it up. Who the fuck plays a game for the first time and says, oh, let me look this up on the wiki? You try to play the game. I guess some people would argue that investing your resources in game for something like this is the same thing, but it's not really. It's fun. On top of that, this doesn't still ruin everything for you for exploring. A lot of first-time playthrough people are still, even if they mark off every location with Explorer, are never going to find the Deathclaw Promontory, right? That's a good example. Dude, I played this game for 10 years straight, and I still didn't know about the Rad Scorpion Nest south of, in between Nipton and the Mojave Outpost. Like, I somehow missed that after 10 years. So, like, Explorer doesn't hurt that at all. But yeah, I think the context of what Explorer is for you kind of puts it in its own weird zone. It's like meta. Like, you're not... It's kind of like how weapon handling, but like, you're supposed to pick this your first time. Right? I think that's it. The difference between this and like Explorer and like other Bethesda type games, like, I know it's Obsidian. Please don't flame me. God, I shouldn't have said it in that order, but the difference between this and like something like Oblivion or Skyrim is that those games always have something right next to you. Every discoverable location is usually either quest-led or close enough that you can tell it. There's a few locations you probably wouldn't notice unless you were like really trying to, and I think this is helpful for new players. So it gets a pass. Eye for an eye is really bad. I don't know where to put it, but it's really bad. You don't want to be crippled. Yeah, you don't want to be crippled, man. If you're fighting, you want your limbs to all work right for combat, so you don't want to be crippled. There's like weird things where if you try to calc how much damage you can do, you need this or whatever, but it's not worth it. Grim Reaper Sprint is very good for VATs builds, but it is the worst VATs perk. So Grim Reaper Sprint has the advantage that you don't have to have any investments to get it. It's just purely a level one, right? 20, yeah. The problem is this got nerfed for Fallout 3, so it's only 20 points if you kill someone. Not to mention, on console at least, this is a little buggy. Sometimes you just don't get the points, but in general, you can chain kills if you're good enough. If you get a headshot and that gives you your AP back enough to do another headshot that kills, you can kind of chain it like that. But it's not as broken as it used to be. If it was Fallout 3, it would be like... Honestly, if this was Fallout 3 Grim Reaper Sprint, it would be like up here. But, yeah, New Vegas Sprint is still good. This is Mile in Their Shoes, and this is Old World Blues. I just don't know what it does. That's bad. You don't need those specific amps, and you don't need them from a very specific requirement. I know that sounds mean, but you really don't need that. You really don't need that, man. That's way more rare than fighting ghouls. Yeah. So it'll be like down here. Ninja. I want to be ninja. That fucking video makes me cringe so hard. I hate that video with all my passion. Ninja is bugged. It doesn't work like it's supposed to. What is it? Multiplies crit chance by 1.15. Despite the description stating it's a flat 15. So, if you're doing melee or unarmed crit, this is obviously good because it's any additional, even if it's not as good as it could be. And 25% damage with melee sneak crits. So obviously, for a stealth build, this is insane. Where did it go? But for any melee unarmed build that has crits in it, this is going to be useful either way. 1.15 is really small, but every number adds up. Especially if you've got light touch, and finesse, and better criticals, and travel light, and unstoppable force, and super slam. You know, it all snowballs. And even 1.15 on top of all that is still nice. Solar powered. Honestly, I don't remember what it does. Endurance 7, 2 strength, you get 1 HP outside per second. It's slightly better than the monocyte breeder, but you have to be outside, and it has to be daytime. Plus 2 strength is like whatever. Doesn't matter, because then once you go inside to sell something, you won't be able to walk anyways. This is role-playing type, and maybe if you want to absolutely... Dude, no, this is role-playing. I don't know what you're doing with this build. What are you doing with solar-powered man? Just have strength. If you want to swing shit, you're going to have to build your build around having inherent strength anyways. You don't need it when you're outside. The regen is kind of interesting. I think it makes fast travel heal you, but I might be wrong. But you're not, like, aching for it. I think if it had been, like... limbs healed while you were in sunlight, that would be something, right? But I don't know, it's just a little weird. It's also really late. This is Them's Good Eatins, which is also an Old World Blues perk, unless I'm mistaken. Any living creature you kill has a 50% chance to drop the potent heal items and replace their blood sausage. Okay, so this one's actually good. Survival 55 is really small for how actual insane the potential upside is. This is just flatly good. Because the main potential of these healing items isn't actually... it's more so that you can stack them with stim packs because they're like better than stim packs and you can stack them, right? It doesn't make the stim pack better. It gives you two things at once. They're pretty lightweight, and the fact that it's any living creature is way better than just Night Stalkers or whatever, right? It's always good. You might not always have 55 survival, but if you get your survival to 45 at level 4 for a Travel Light, then you probably still have like the Mesquite Campground book, the Jimmy's Ranch book, and like the Scavenger Platform book. So like from there you just need like what, like a point. If you have comprehension, you don't even need a point. So to get this perk, it's not that much. This is Irradiated Beauty, and I don't know what it does. Sleep removes all rads. Hardcore only one of them. This would be good, but it's gimped by the fact that it's level 22, man. Yeah, you don't need this at this point, so it's just bad. But the effect is good. If you got this at like level 4 or level 6, this would actually be incredible. Because you could do like Searchlight and then just go sleep it off, you know? I think in general, radiation is just not enough of a threat outside of, like, rad zones in New Vegas. It's kind of unfortunate. This is Laser Commander, which is right behind Vigilant Recycler. It's really incredible. Laser Commander is just crit chance and crit damage with laser weapons. This stacks with set lasers to fun, and it means that Elijah's Lair and the Tri-Beam Laser Rifle are just like some of the most powerful late game weapons you can possibly have. I think the GRA Tri-Beam Laser Rifle is like the most consistently powerful, most versatile, powerful crit chance weapon you can have in the game. It's up there. This is Nuka Chemist. That's Voracious Ritter, so this is Nuka Chemist. Oh, so Nuka Chemist is base game. It's 90 science, a little steep. Unlocks Nuka Cola recipes. Yeah, who cares? The opportunity cost is that you could have picked a better perk. Voracious Reader, though, what does it do? It has something to do with the books you can make in Old World Blue, right? Oh no, it's Lonesome Road. Damaged books become blank magazines, can copy existing magazines into blank magazines. It just means you can craft skill magazines, but this is like, what, level 22, intelligence 7, so you've already got a decent amount of experience points from your intelligence. You've already leveled up everything, so you don't need that many anymore. It's really late into the game. Slightly better than this if it was earlier. Spray and Pray. I mean, that's always good. I think 90% of people are going to play with companions. I know I do. It's an objectively good benefit. It's just not necessary. You can just aim. You can just, like, be nice and not shoot your companions, but... You know, maybe if you want to just fucking unload a light machine gun on something and Veronica charges in, it's nice not to kill her by default. But... even then, if you crit, you're still probably killing your companions. So, I don't know. It's kind of whatever. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's got some use. Slayer. I'm not a Halo thing. Slayer. It's second best to Unstoppable Force because hitting faster means you have more chances to get. Slayer is second only to Super Slam. Because hitting faster means you have more chances to get off Super Slam. So there you go. I do think that unarmed builds have some of the highest high-end potential in the game. Less risk than an explosives build. Less reward than crit energy weapons, but still pretty good. Lessons learned. So this is better than Swift Learner. It's like right below Swift Learner. We're just going to put it here because maybe you want to do all the DLCs too, even though that's really difficult for pacifism. It's just kind of like fucking impossible for Lonesome Road, but obviously not for speedrunning, but for like intended play challenge run, right? Lessons learned is actually kind of worth it because it's not as marginal as Swift Learner. Swift Learner is 10% to all experience when you're like level 40 and it's taking like hundreds of thousands of experience. Lessons learned makes you level up faster as you level up, which somewhat compensates for the insane jump in levels. But they're same in principle, so we'll put them right next to each other. This is Nerves of Steel. You regenerate like crazy. This is where it comes into a question, right? Is it better to have more points so you hit all the shots you need first? Or is it better to regenerate them fast in case they don't work? I think it's actually better to have something like Nerves of Steel than Math Wrath. Because you can regenerate faster outside of VATs to get 3 shots back than having this and like having 3 shots and then immediately having 1 more or whatever. It's kind of weird. But all VATs perks are synergistic and really good. This is Tunnel Runner, and I think it makes you move faster when you sneak, right? Yeah. Where did I put Silent Running? It's like right there. Roughing It. So sleeping outside gives you the low rested benefit. This is worthless. It's level, what, 28? And you have to have 100 survival, which just isn't feasible. And experience is like worth probably less than anything else in the game, to be honest. This is a base game one, or isn't it? Rad absorption, -1 rad every 20 seconds. So this one's actually kind of useful, just because you don't have to like have rad away. The problem is that at the point in the game where this is, you have rad away. I don't care what you're doing. If you made it to level 28 and you're not like doing a weird speedrun type thing, you have rad away and you have money. So like, where did I put this one? It's like there. Burden to Bear is strong back, but worse. Because you have to have like more points in strength and endurance. And the extra 50 isn't as insane as the first 50, but they're still the exact same. Implant GRX is free turbo. Do I have like a Kim build thing I can compare this to? No, not really. It's always really good, but I don't know if it's ever great. I personally just dislike turbo, like as a mechanic, so I'm trying to be objective with this and not talking about my own personal opinion. But yeah, man, I don't like turbo, so I don't like this, but objectively this is a very powerful perk. Having the effective turbo on free command that recharges, that you can make last longer and use more often, that you can't be addicted to, is really powerful. If you play in real time, this is insane. It's like fucking, it's like being fucking David from Cyberpunk. Just get to run around like that. I just don't personally like that because I don't think the game engine functions with it. This sounds like it would be like amazing in a game with gunplay like Fallout 4. I just don't like that game. Broad Daylight is purely for convenience, but you actually might want it because the Pip-Boy does fix some of the darker areas that are intentionally darkly lit. So I think it's like there with sneaking, but kind of weird. This is certified something. It's the level 40 one, right? Certified tech. 25% transfer to robots, 85% chance of finding extra crafting component. Worthless. Where is robotics expert? No, you know what? The cost is too steep. If it was earlier, it'd be okay. But yeah, having anything to help your crit chance is nice. The problem is this is like OWB only. You don't care about the crafting component. And then level 40, that's way too high. Unless you have like a fully built build, and then you walk into Old World Blues and pick this at level 42, man, I don't know what you're doing. That's very weird. Okay, so all the Karma ones are really good for different builds. 25% AP regeneration rate, 20% attack speed, immunity to control hits. So, ain't like that now. These should be ordered 3 to 3, but we'll check. Doesn't really matter because I'm talking about it, but who cares? Oh yeah, thought you died. Okay, so this one's thought you died. 10 health plus 10 per 100 karma. Karma resets to 0, 10% damage, immunity critical hits. This one is just flatly good. It makes you beefy and strong. I mean, as long as you're not being a pacifist, this is like... Even if you are a pacifist, it's just pure health. And if you're a pacifist, you're goody two-shoes. It's really good. Ain't like that now. Attack speed. So you only care about this if you're doing unarmed or what is it? Unarmed or like auto attacks, like fully automatic. We'll put it like up here. Put it like up here with ninja, but it's just, it takes so long that it's kind of hard to get. Ain't like that now though is the negative karma one, right? Yeah. I will say that synergizes well because a lot of people that do unarmed will join up with the Legion. So it is nice to be able to have all that negative karma already so you don't have to like rebalance it. And then just lucky I'm alive. Plus 4 luck for 3 minutes upon finishing a battle with less than 25% health. That's really useless because you have max luck probably. Immunity critical hits, plus 50 critical hit damage. So the only useful thing is plus 50 crit damage. Where is better criticals? It's got a steeper requirement. But this is the tier list for in-game level up perks. I'm going to do traits at some point, and I'm going to talk about the other perks, but probably not. Like, okay, like you want me to be dead ass, right? Level up. Companion perks. Pick whichever companion you want to walk with. Challenge perks. Abominable is pretty good when you do it. Okay, what about implants? Okay. Depends on your build, so I can't really talk about it. Unarmed perks. There's no penalty to getting all of them. You just, you know, you just get them, so they're free. Special perks. Okay, it just depends on whether or not you're willing to, do extra stuff in the DLC. All this is literally just story. You can't, or whether or not you're willing to buy the implants and go find them. Implants. And then yeah, the special perks. It just gives you an extra special point. And then yeah, just whether or not you choose to leave Eddie or not. Personally, I think that camaraderie is better if you're doing laser crits. Lonesome Road is better if you play without companions. Would you believe it? The way that the ability was designed, it works better. So yeah, that's all the other perks. Traits are interesting, and traits will be much shorter, but this is perks. Yeah, this is my personal order. But yeah, I streamed this live on Twitch. That's Nick is a Neat. I tweet when I go live on Twitter. That's Nick is a Neat. My brain is fried. I'm running out of juice here. I have a second channel for VODs. Maybe if I do a New Vegas run, I'll upload it. Bye. I'm sorry. I'm drained, man. 2.5 hours. Can you believe I used to do these all the time? Alright, bye. Oh. Oh. Oh, I have cap locks on. That's my bad. New Vegas perks ranked. You gotta put the plug. But I made this one. I already pointed that out, but I made it. If there's anything else that I ever rank, I'll try to make another tier list for it again. If there aren't any good ones. This one's relatively easy to make the tier list for because it's just like 100 images and you just have to crop them. But for series like I don't know, for things with like 200 images where you have to be like specific, it's like a pain in the ass to do. I'm not gonna do it. But yeah. But yeah, Based Explorer. Alright, that's it for real though. I'm out of here. I'm wiped. Hope you have a good day if you watched this far. Goodbye.